Hello and welcome to another episode on Rosecast. Welcome here once again. It's lovely having you here. Now, if you've seen the title of this podcast, you may be wondering, what is this girl trying to talk about? But yes, I'm going to talk about it. And if you ever took your time to listen to the trailer of Rosecast, like I like to talk about. So, societal topics is more or less like I'm talking about something that is cultural, societal. But of course, I'm going to chip in my perspective as a Christian in it. So as this podcast continues, as this episode continues, you're going to hear some chipping in of my Christian values in what I'm talking about. But yeah, situationship is a new relationship. Let's talk about it. Let's ride in. So I remember the first time I came across this term was on YouTube. A couple were talking about it, and I don't know if they're talking about it from their experience or they're trying to just you know talk to people about what situationship was about. But that was my first time of realizing there's a term that it's called situationship, and I kind of picked interest in it. And until I went through something that looked like it, I came to really understand. And that's why sometimes it's said, experience is a very great teacher, because there are some things you may not really understand until you go through it. Now, in recent dating culture, in recent relationship culture, this term situationship is becoming something that is more frequent, more in vogue. Let me put it that way. It's something that is actually becoming very common. And it also goes in line with certain terms like friends with benefit, and this one can be a little bit much more let me say intimate. Friends benefit is a little bit more intimate than situationship, and friends benefit sometimes may not be as emotional as a situationship. So they are not the same thing, but let us put them that they are in the same class, more or less like relationships without commitment. So anything that is not a commitment can either be friends benefit or situationship. I don't even know there's any other terminology, but I think these two basic terms describe relationships that are kind of have certain intimate levels without commitment. And it's becoming more common in our environment. And I don't blame this on the fact that more people are getting more discouraged with the conventional type of relationship. More people are becoming traumatized, either due to personal experiences they've had or from watching their family members have like relationships that are not gone well. So more or less like it is twisting their own concept of relationship, and they are not willing to throw themselves into a relationship cycle, but they still want to have a feel of what a relationship is like. It's like, let's enjoy what a relationship is like, but would not add any strings to it. So let us say, so it can make it easier to walk away. It can make it easier not to take certain kind of responsibility. But is that really it? Is it possible to actually have a relationship that is intimate or close without having any strings attached? Is that reality? Are we really being real with ourselves? Like really, really, is that possible? Like, is it possible for two people to be in a relationship without a commitment and they still don't have strings attached to it? Let's be real with ourselves. Now, to answer the previous question that I asked, that is a reality that is not like we lie to ourselves. Like, it's a lie. Let me just put that like that. Anything that's a situationship, anything that's a friend with benefit is a lie. Is a lie that the human mind has tried to perpetuate in order to numb certain areas of their lives. Now, it's true certain people have thrive in unconventional relationship, like they set up unconventional relationships and they are able to pull through it. Now, to be very honest, I won't go into statistics because I'll be very honest, I don't think I did a research. But if I'm just going to give a generalized perception of what I've been able to observe, on social media or on the internet, and I've like articles I've read and all that, I'm not giving statistics, I'm just saying what I perceive. The truth is that the percentage of people that still thrive in unconventional relationships are not as much as people who do thrive in conventional relationships. And that's because of how the human is wired. The human is wired to actually enjoy companionship in which they feel safe in. So if a companionship does not feel safe, it's going to be difficult to enjoy that companionship. And one of the ways a companionship can be made to be safe is when there is commitment. When I feel like you are for me and I'm for you, and I feel comfortable to be myself, and I know that you are there for me. I know I am not sharing you with somebody else. In this kind of space, it's easier to continue to put yourself out there, because you know there's a reciprocal affection. You know that there's a future for that relationship. Commitment gives you that. Commitment builds an avenue for trust to thrive. So when you're with someone, you are not sure if they are for you or not, certain things like anxiety come into place, questioning yourself, and of course, you won't feel completely comfortable to express all of yourself. You want to still hide and keep away certain parts of yourself, or you want to, it doesn't just create a stable environment. Yes, that's the word. It doesn't create a stable environment. Also, that is why monogamous relationship in the right setting are a little bit better. I don't say a little bit, like I'm trying to be careful because I did not go reading any statistics. But monogamous relationship tend to have a better avenue for commitment to thrive, because in a monogamous relationship there is this equal commitment by both parties. So the wife is not feeling like she's competing against anyone for her husband, and her husband also knows that, okay, this woman is for me, in comparison to other forms of relationships. Monogamous relationship actually creates a much um, safer venue in order to enjoy commitment, of which a situationship does not provide. Now, what is a situationship? Like always, I like to define things according to how I understand them. So I'm not giving you a dictionary definition. Please go check Google for the definition in a broader sense, but I'm going to give the definition how I understand it. So a situationship is a relationship where there's no definition. However, the benefits of a relationship are being enjoyed, and actually the extent of the benefit of a relationship, of a committed relationship, depends on the value upheld between both people. So for people that they don't have a problem with physical intimacy, they may actually engage in a physical intimacy and develop emotional attachment with time, but there is no definition of the relationship. But for those that have stronger values regarding physical intimacy, it may more likely be emotional intimacy. So it's more or less like you view this person beyond just being a platonic individual. So it's not just like how you see a casual colleague or a casual um a colleague, a work colleague, or just a friend. You actually have a romantic interest in this person, and it is a mutual interest per se. It actually appears to be a mutual interest, but there's no definition, so there's no label on that relationship. You can't say, okay, this is my boyfriend, this is my girlfriend, or this is my fiance, or this is my fiance. You can't say any of that. So it's like being single but not single. You can't comfortably say you are single, but you can also say you're in a relationship. Actually, this actually sounds like confusion, but that is it. That is what we are at in this our era right now, and it's one of the things that's actually very prevalent. And I've come across certain tweets where people are sharing the fact that they've gotten physically intimate with somebody, emotionally attached to a person, but there's no definition of the relationship, and unfortunately, they are afraid to progress because they don't know what the other person thinks of them, and it creates an avenue of so much confusion because you can't easily move on from this person, but at the same time, you can't claim this person. So, situationship creates an avenue where you can't hold the other person accountable for decisions because the person cannot say, I'm committed to you. So, at the end of the day, no matter how much we try to trivialize certain things, no matter how much we try to numb ourselves to certain things, the truth remains that certain principles would only help us to enjoy certain things more. And in this case, commitment actually helps us to enjoy a romantic relationship more. Once commitment is not there, it will not give you the free access to enjoy that relationship. Now, one of the things, and one which I will call a very big lie, that we tell ourselves for things like situationship is like, okay, we've already talked about it, we're not in a relationship. Maybe one party says, okay, I told you I was not ready to be in a relationship, and the other party is like, okay, I'm going to wait out on this person. Maybe with time this person will make up their mind, but then you realize that because the commitment is not there, the trust is not going to be strong. No matter how much you try to tell yourself this is going to be there, the anxiety would always pop up. Now, funny enough, even in a committed relationship, one needs to still build trust. One needs to still make their partner knows that you can trust me. How much more in a scenario where that is not even there? How are you planning to maintain the trust? Now, for platonic relationships, there are boundaries you won't want to cross. There are levels you want to cross. There are certain things you know you can't demand of because the avenue is not even created. You know that this is my limit. In a relationship, because there's a commitment, you know that there are certain feedback you need to get. I'm trying to look for the right word, but you know there are certain things that is more or less like a right. I don't want to say like a right. Right is wrong word, but it's more or less like it's your it's something that you deserve to be aware of because there's a commitment, there's an agreement, there is something in place there. But in something like situationship or friends with benefit or also unconventional relationship, the other person does not feel like you are in a place to have access to certain things because there's no definition. So in as much as you may want to desire that, you've already put a limit to how much involvement that you are meant to be in. So certain people believe that they don't need rules to guide them and all that. But the truth is that when it comes to a romantic relationship, commitment would always set a healthier pace than when there is no commitment. So our romantic relationships have a very great influence on our mental health as well. So when we are in a stable relationship, when we are in a healthy relationship, with somebody with a like even platonic, I want to cut this across. When we have a stable family relationship, we have stable platonic friendships, they actually have a way of affecting our mental health as well. And I would say that situationship is not healthy for the mental health because it creates a lot of unnecessary anxiety. Anxiety you shouldn't be experiencing. Also, it makes you go through relationship problems that you're not in a relationship, but you're going through relationship problems. So it's more or less you are bearing a burden that you are not actually supposed to bear. Because if you are single, you shouldn't be suffering from a romantic relationship conflict or problems. You should only experience that when you are in a romantic um relationship. So if you're not in a romantic relationship, you shouldn't be suffering from romantic relationships. So it makes you suffer from what you're not supposed to even suffer from. Also, it creates the doubt with yourself because it makes you doubt your ability, doubt yourself. It also can affect your view on love as well. Now, relationship is not healthy. And if I were to come to this from a Christian perspective, I don't believe that God will lead us into a situationship because whenever God does things, He does it with a purpose. Now, what is the purpose of a situationship? If we actually could ask ourselves, what are you hoping to gain from a situationship that is not going to be selfish? Can you truly be in a situationship without being selfish, without trying to fulfill your own personal agenda? Certainly, when you get to go, whenever there's anything like a situationship, there must be a selfish agenda that is focused only on what you want, what you wish to get. In comparison to a romantic relationship, yes, when we get into a romantic relationship, we are desiring something from a partner, but in a healthier form, you are more in it to make sure that the other person feels loved. So you are also going to be in that relationship to sacrifice, to give, of which a situationship absolves you from that responsibility because you don't have a commitment. The person cannot hang you on anything. So it's more or less like still fulfilling your own selfish desire. So I don't believe that God will lead us into a situationship. And if it is something that we find ourselves in, we need to really consider what we are truly doing and ask ourselves, will this achieve God's purpose in my life? Will it achieve God's plan for my life? Is it going to be healthy for my mindset? Now, I went through certain content people shared on social media, and the truth is that even when God leads us on um like certain journeys that are not clear, it gets clear with time. So it means God does things in a way that at the end of the day, the bigger picture makes sense. Now, situationship does not even give you that hope that you are getting to a sense of direction or clarity, and it's something that is scary to be part of, and I would not advise it for anybody. Some few people have shared, I've come across certain content where people translate from a situationship to a true relationship. Yes, that happens, and that is more or less like a good outcome at the end of the day, but it's not a guarantee that that would always be the outcome. And it's always better for clarity to be created if such a scenario has been created. It's always good for clarity to come out. Okay, if we got into a situationship unintentionally, where can we go on from there? Are we willing to make a clarity of it by giving a definition to the relationship? Are we willing to be honest with ourselves, and is this really what I want? If this is not what I want, why don't I just end this and let us like be honest with ourselves and face the reality of what it is? In one of my vlog that I shared, um, how a holder is learning to let go. One of the things I mentioned there was that if we are not willing to let go of the old, God cannot do a new thing in our lives, because we have to be willing to let go of the old thing in order to receive the new. And I think like unless you are willing to let go of that situationship, unless you are willing to let go of that undefined relationship, you can't enjoy a defined relationship. And that is in two ways. Either that situationship, there is clarity spoken into that relationship situationship, and it is ended and a commitment is made, or the whole thing is ended pata pata. That's an English, that's a Nigerian pidgin for saying finally. Pata pata is finally, or the whole situationship thing is ended finally. Because at the end of the day, whatever you do that does not have clarity only means you are planning to end into a roadblock or a ditch. Let me just give this example. Like you are driving a car and rain is falling and you just have this mist covering your windshield. If you don't clean up that windshield, you could get an accident. And I think that's what situationship is like. As long as that windshield of that uncertainty is not being cleared, you are only depriving yourself of the opportunity of enjoying something more wholesome and more, liberating. You keep on putting yourself in that place of guesswork, and it's not good for you. It's not necessary. And then if physical intimacy is involved, and if it ends up producing a child, imagine all that model up. And I think this is even what leads to things like baby mamas. I can't completely say, because some people were actually maybe in a relationship and then they had children. But situationship with physical intimacy is involved can lead to things like having a child out of wedlock. And at the end of the scenarios, like we always this type of scenarios don't always end well. Most of the times they don't. And then you've put a child in jeopardy. So at the end of the day, the complete outcome is not really a good one. And then if I'm giving us scenarios that I can think about, if one of the persons are not stable, unnecessary envy, some people go to a great length. For example, if one of the people involved in a situationship gets so emotionally involved, they can pose as a problem when the other party decides to commit to somebody else. And then you just have like a lot of unnecessary unpleasant experiences, and the other party, people that are not even aware of, may get involved. I'm just trying to like make this point across. It just doesn't create a very healthy lineup. Imagine two people in a situationship and one decides to get committed to somebody else, and they still have this other person as an attachment. The other person you're getting committed to is dragged into this kind of confusing mess that has been created. So at the end of the day, as I look at situationship from the angles I can look at it, I'm not seeing it in any way being a very positive um concept. I don't think it's healthy. I don't think it's mentally healthy, emotionally healthy. It's not really something that one should be involved in. And if one gets involved in it, it's important that one, deals with it, like solves it, and make sure that it's not something you are continuing to perpetuate. So, situationship, like any other relationship, actually also teaches you about yourself. It actually teaches you the things that you are willing to accept. It actually challenges your value system. It also challenges you to like test how much you love yourself, like, and how much self-respect do you have for yourself to continually accommodate such a thing. Because if somebody is not willing to choose you completely, in the sense that if they're not willing to commit to you, it means that there may be other things they are not going to be willing to commit to you at all. If they are willing to share you with other people, then that is a problem. Because if somebody loves you in a healthy way, in a romantic and a healthy way, then I don't think they will want to share you with someone else. I think they will want to have you for themselves, because I don't know. I think it's one of the things that when people are in love, they do. They really want to be more invested in your life than any other person. And that would mean they'll be willing to have a stake in your life where they know they have a very good position in your life. They want to have the front center of your life, and they won't want to share that with someone else. So if somebody is, trying to share you with someone else, that's also because they want you to be comfortable with them being with someone else. They want you to be comfortable with sharing them with someone else. And I think, in as much as if a lot of emotional intimacy has been involved, it may be a difficult journey pulling out of such, but it's a possibility. And I think before one gets like messed up, like mentally, or heartbroken for long, like before it messes you up, please, it's just healthy to be out of that. Now, bringing in my Christian principles or perspective, the word God is pro marriage. God encourages relationships. God is pro marriage. Adam and Eve were, the first couple in the Bible, the first couple in history, and all through scriptures we see, even when God is involved in when God is a great factor in bringing people together, we always see how, there's a straightforwardness in it. There's a straightforwardness, and I believe that when God is bringing two people together, when God is leading two people together, there's going to be a sense of clarity, a sense of agreement, a sense of willingness as well. A committed relationship deserves willingness. Now, like I said before, I've seen some people post, okay, if you know that this is just what you want from a relationship, you don't want commitment. But we all know we are humans, we have emotional sides, and it's always not that easy to just be in something that appears romantic without getting your heart involved. I don't think it's a wise thing to do. I think I've said it a lot of times, so let me not repeat that. But bringing in my Christian perspective, I do believe that God is pro marriage. So when a romantic relationship is being pursued, is actually with the desire to get into marriage. Now, that doesn't mean every romantic relationship will end in marriage, but I believe that a romantic relationship that is done in a God honoring way, that is done in a way that honors the other person, that respects the other person, even if it doesn't end in marriage, that respect will always be there. You can always respect that person because the person actually honored you, the person actually treated you in the right way, even if it didn't end in marriage. And I think that's a much healthier approach. Like, even if a romantic relationship does not end in marriage, I think it can be done in a way that both people felt respected, honored, and valued during the time. So it doesn't have to be a messy relationship. It doesn't have to have all these strings and all these additions in order to make it adventurous. It only just leaves us with scars that we need to start tending and caring and managing and therapizing. That's not an English word. I'm sorry. I was trying to just give my own word, but we are trying to like go through therapy for it, either pay therapy or personal therapy for it. So they just create a lot of unnecessary suffering for us, which we are not supposed to just like. Why do we need to go through that suffering? Why? Like, there's no need for that. So, but even though I know that it's not something easy to be in a romantic relationship, it's not always easy to go back, look back and feel like, oh, that was a good time. But I think it's something that can be pursued instead of situationships. Like, why don't you intentionally be in a relationship with that person with the hope that, okay, marriage could be a possibility. And then why don't you just be in such a relationship, do the right thing, be healthy, be respectful. And if it doesn't work out, if it doesn't end in marriage, then you part ways in a respectful manner. I think it's a better thing than being in a situationship with the person. Because if you're not ready for a relationship, then don't start what looks like one. Do the real thing and go for it. So of course, even though this is now something that is more prevalent in society, like I always tell myself, like even if I wasn't a Christian, even if I didn't uphold Christian principles, if I had to look at situationship from even a moral perspective, I don't think it's something that I would want to champion. I don't think it's something that I feel is healthy to be part of. Then yes, if I put in being a Christian as part of it, I certainly know that being a Christian is not something, my Christian principles will not encourage such a scenario for me. Now, you see the way I talked about this topic, I experienced it. So I'm not talking like it's outside the box. I experienced it. And the truth is that certain situationships happen unintentionally. But then when you realize that this is what it is, when you come to the understanding that I'm actually in something that looks like a romantic relationship, but there's no definition, then you are aware, and then it's your responsibility to make sure that you do the right thing for yourself. If you are the losing end, do the right thing. If you are the one encouraging it, please do the right thing. It's not healthy for you in the long term. It's not healthy for the other person in the long term. And if you want to take that step to make things clearer, do the right thing. If your decision to take the bolder step is going to be painful, suffer the pain while it is. Don't worry. You're not alone. You will get better. But if the step you want to take is something more positive, then good, that is better. It's much better to give that thing a label, define it so that you know what you are building. You are not just building castles in the air, you are building something. And even if that building you are building is not something that you are going to move into, at least you built something. You did something. Now, the truth is that, like I said, just situations like every other relationship teaches you about yourself. So situationship could also come with very good memories, and it's not always like always filled in, because of course you are getting to know somebody in an intimate way, in a close way, but know the limit of what you can take, and protect yourself, protect your heart, give yourself some priority, give yourself some self-respect, respect yourself. Give yourself some respect and know when to tap out. Know when to tap out. But at the same time, situationship also shows us how broken as humans we are, and how much we desire to have somebody that loves us, someone that treats us well. It also shows us the depth of how much we feel like heard and loved on when we are in a romantic relationship with somebody. So it actually shows us our needs as a person, as a single person. It also exposes our fear, of probably feeling alone, being alone, or not having someone to love on us. And I think it's a good time, if you ever find yourself in one, to reevaluate yourself, ask yourself, like, what do I really need? And know the right place to get that need from. For me, I would always say, I realize that God is my priority, and God is able to fulfill my needs. Even the needs that I think that a human being is the one that can fill it up, God knows how to fill up that space and suit my heart for that need. So situationship actually teaches us our weakness, and how much romantic love actually feels very good. But it's better to enjoy the real thing than that which is not real. Now, the thing is that situationships come with good memories. So it's not always that you must have a very terrible experience with them or the person is a bad person. Not at all. This is a thing about just being able to build you for yourself a healthier future, a healthier mindset, to protect your health mentally and emotionally. Yes, those aspects of your health are very important. So good memories can be created in a situationship. Like it's a romantic relationship without a definition. So a lot of good things can come from it, not necessarily negative things. Also, it can actually also end on a good note if both parties are willing to see it that way. But regardless of whether both parties decide to end it amicably or not, if you're listening to the podcast and it is something that you are in, I'll encourage you to end that, because it's not going to, in the long run, it's not going to be a positive outcome for you if clarity does not come into it, if a definition does not come into it. If you decide to continue to pursue situationship, you may end up suffering from a heartbreak that may be more painful than being in a committed relationship. So with that being said, if you are single, please be single. Like, just be single. And if you're in a committed relationship, then do the right thing in a committed relationship. If you're a single person struggling with commitment issues, or you have like traumatic experiences that you need to work through, then why don't you actually focus on doing that? Like therapy, counseling, through platonic friendships. Why don't you work on that and talk about it and learn how to cope better than tagging somebody along that you are not ready to commit to or you are not willing to commit to? Why don't you just work on that as a single, so that when you are ready to commit to somebody, you are willing to do that with your heart? So I think it's a better approach. And I know that not everything can be solved outside of a relationship. So certainly certain things, trauma, difficulty, can only be worked on properly in a relationship. Also, I believe that trusting God and having faith that He would help us through different seasons of our life is very important, which includes even a romantic relationship. And I want to say that it's okay not to feel certain probably about a romantic relationship. It's okay to take your time. I also believe it is good to have somebody that will be willing to have faith in you, someone that can also wait for you. But I think it's also just good to always be clear and not string anybody along. Be honest. Like somebody was telling me the other day that they rather appreciate if somebody is honest with them, even if it is painful. Tell them the truth. And I think that also applies a lot in a romantic setting. Be honest. Tell the person the truth. Tell the person where you are at. But then when you tell them the truth, don't also string them along. Don't give them a false sense of hope. Always be clear and let your actions be clear. Don't just say it by words, but let your actions be clear as well. And as God helps us, I hope that we get to enjoy and experience the love that we desire and that we want for ourselves. And I also hope that whatever relationship we get into, that we would be an addition and healthy influence to that person, to that cycle that we are in. So, like I always say, if this podcast blessed you, kindly share to someone that will be encouraged by it. If you'd like to share your comments, share your thoughts, kindly give your feedback. Very glad, very happy to get your feedback. Let's continue this conversation outside of this platform. I'll be glad to have that with you. And with that being said, until next time on Rosecast, continue to stay safe and God bless. Bye bye.